we speak from personal experience on this because Terri and I have been happily married for 24 years, and we have 7 beautiful children, which I'll raise up here in front of the camera. But our 7 children, Amy, Noah, Elena, Daisy, Teddy, Bo, David, and Abby, were all kidnapped from us under the color of law by this fraudulent and evil system. And the way this unfolded was we took our daughter Amy in for a simple eye test. This happened in February of 2016. We went to a medical practitioner that we had never seen before, and we just wanted to get that eye test. But in the course of the examination, she wanted to take blood work and ask Amy some pressing questions that Amy wasn't comfortable asking, and we weren't comfortable with it either. So after that assessment, within a few days of that, we began receiving some harassing phone calls from this doctor's office, a very young doctor, fresh out of residency, insisting that we bring Amy back into the office for some additional issues. And what transpired after that was, well, we refused to go back to that doctor's office, and within about a month after that, we began receiving CPS documents at our house, and stating that we need to call CPS regarding a matter concerning Amy. The first document that we received came to us from the girlfriend of Terri's father, who lived a few houses down from us at the time, which we thought was pretty odd because this person did not work in CPS, and so it was kind of strange. But this person did work in the healthcare industry. So then what happened was we received another document the next day on March 26th, and having been in the military for 20 years, I work with a lot of official government documents, and these looked suspicious to me as far as possibly being fraudulent or forgeries. And so we wanted to go check this out with the CPS supervisor, which we set an appointment on Monday, March 28th of 2016 to do that. But first, we wanted to make sure that Amy was okay, so we took her to a second provider who we asked to do the same type of an assessment, and Amy's height and weight were different. She was actually 12 pounds heavier, and she was about 2.5 inches shorter in her height, which put her body mass index in a very healthy range. So they declared her in good health and under no restrictions. The first doctor's office, I don't know if I mentioned that, but they wanted us to come back because they thought that Amy may have she may be anorexic, which we knew was not the case because we always observed our daughter's behavior. So when we got that second assessment from that provider, we felt really good about it. And then I went to go see the CPS supervisor. And when I walked into the guy's office on March 28th, my first question was, well, what are these documents? And he said, well, we hand these out whenever there's a child welfare issue. And I said, well, what's the matter? And he said that they received a diagnosis on our daughter that she was from a doctor's office stating that she was malnourished, that she was severely anorexic, and that without immediate treatment she would die soon. And we knew that that was not the case. And I said, where did you get this from? And I was already suspicious because the allegation of anorexia nervosa is a mental health condition, and that requires a psychiatric evaluation, which was never done on my daughter. It would have also required a physiological assessment, which would have required blood to be withdrawn and examined, which was never done. So therefore, there could have never been any legitimate medical diagnosis. And so when I put that forward to the guy, he said, well, that's what we got, and that's what we're going with. And I said, well, I got a good health document here saying that my daughter is in good health under no restrictions. He wanted me to give that up to him at the time, which I refused to do. He would not provide me what it was he claimed that he had. And then, because I would not do that and I would not submit to an interview, pretty much our conversation ended. And then after that, the next day, we received another document at our house. Don't really know when it was delivered. It was very strange because it seemed similar to the first two. But one day after meeting the supervisor, I get this other document saying I need to call CPS, and if I don't do what they say, then they're going to remove all 7 of my children from my house.
Wow.
So we kind of set that aside, and I took the week off of work because I could kind of see where this was going. And on the next day, on March 30th, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we were all home together, all 7 of our kids, and about 3 o'clock, we had 2 Louisville Metro police officers. This happened in Louisville, Kentucky, approached our residence, knocked on our door with a CPS person a little bit down the hallway, and they said, need you to open the door, Mark, you lost custody of all 7 of your children. And I asked them, why they were there. We asked them to present a search warrant. They had no paperwork. They had no order from a judge. They claimed they have a verbal order, and we were supposed to just open up our door and give these people our children. They never stated why they were there. I assumed it had something to do with Amy, but they never said that. So we presented our good health document to the officers just as we did with the CPS supervisor, and yet after 2.5 hours of this, they kept asserting they had a verbal order. They called additional officers to our house, had our house surrounded with up to 8 police cars, 7 or 8 police cars, a very intimidating scene. But we opened all the windows in our house because they kept saying, well, we want to see the children. And so we said, you can see the children through the window. They're all sitting there waving at them, and we got all this on video. And so what happened, Jeff, is that after 2 hours of this, they left, which became really, it created a very suspicious thing in our minds, because if you're there for supposedly an alleged emergency, why would you leave? Because they would be compelled under state law to act in the interest of the best interest of that child, and they did not do that. And so what transpired after that was they didn't come back for the succeeding 6 days. And on the advice of counsel, who we later determined had been working in the system for 30 years, I went to the courthouse on April the 6th. On April the 6th, we went there with a good health document, and I took my daughter with me, Amy. And when we went into the court, no one made an immediate attempt to take Amy to the hospital as if she was in imminent danger or anything like that. So we waited for the proceedings to occur, and as it unfolded, we presented our good health document to the judge, and I'm thinking, well, the worst case scenario would be that we would get a third-party assessment, okay? Best case is we would get a complete dismissal because they could see that Amy was in good health and under no restrictions. The other side stated that they were asserting that I forged that second medical opinion of Amy being in good health and under no restrictions. And so I thought to myself, well, why don't they just call the practitioner's office and verify that it was them who made that? Well, so what happened was Amy stood up and said that she didn't want to go to the hospital because she would see that they were pushing to get her into the hospital. And the judge looked at her and basically said, well, when you pass the bar, then you can recommend what I should do, and ordered Amy to be taken to the hospital with 2 people who should not have been in the courtroom under state law to begin with.
Wow.
So what happened was, after they took Amy out of the home or out of the courtroom, they did not take her straight to the hospital as they were directed. They took her back to our home and began moving her things out of our house down to the girlfriend of Terry's father's house, which was a few houses down the street at the time. It wasn't until later that night, and I didn't know this until Terry told me about it, because after they took Amy out of the courtroom, they called Terry on the phone and said, we're ordering you to release your other 6 children. And Terry hung up on the judge because she said, no one's going to steal my children from me. And